What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a live stream. I have to apologize beforehand. I've not been well, as you can probably hear from my voice. So I want to run through quite a few articles just to help you guys understand a little bit what's going on in terms of the right to buy, the pros, the potential cons. Is this going to actually materialize? Is this going to be worthwhile? So just bear with me. Please drop all your comments. I'll try and respond to every single one of the comments this evening as well. So don't worry, I will get down to that. So this kind of sums up where we're going to be going. So if you want a very, very short summary of what I want to talk about, this is it. And it's a great little funny account, but the latest brilliant plan is to do more of what caused the housing crisis in the first place. Now, if that doesn't make any sense to you, I will elaborate on that very shortly. So let's jump straight into this, guys. And also, just before I start, sorry, if you find any of this useful, please do obviously like the video. It certainly helps this channel out. We're at 14,000 subscribers. And that's all thanks to you guys. So I appreciate you more than you know. So thank you guys. Okay, so the government website has now been updated with the right to buy extension to make more home ownerships possible for millions of people who obviously desire it. Now, the Prime Minister has announced 2.5 million tenants renting their homes from housing associations will be given the right to buy them. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but previously there was something like the right to acquire, which kind of linked to housing associations. But anyway, nonetheless, he's now saying that those who are part of housing associations will be given the right to buy them outright. And this is the important part, guys, that you need to be mindful of, that the government is now pledging to build a new social home for everyone sold. How feasible do you really think that is? Alongside this, the universal credit reform will incentivize more hardworking people to save for a house deposit. And then there'll obviously be a review of the mortgage lending market, which will aim to turn more of a generation rent into generation buy, which is interesting. So if those of you are unaware, currently tenants in council homes are eligible to buy their homes at a discounted price of up to 70% of the market value, depending, of course, how long that they've been living there. However, the scheme is less generous for those in homes owned by housing associations. But what Boris is now pledging is that by extending the scheme, it could benefit up to 2.5 million tenants who would now gain the right to buy, freeing them up to become homeowners and add value and make improvements to the home as they wish. And the Prime Minister stated, and he's great with his words when he can get them out of his mouth, is just as no generation should be locked out of home ownership because of when they were born, so nobody should be barred from the same dream simply because of where they live now. Now, I'm all for giving people the option and giving people the opportunity to buy a home. However, what I'm a little bit skeptical about is this guy. This guy will say one thing and do something completely different, or say one thing and simply not mean it. However, let's not shoot him down just yet, because obviously some people are quite excited and hopefully some people do benefit from this. And then next up, we have something which is, it kind of shares the sentiments of what I believe. And Diane, and I'm not going to get political here, guys, lashes out at Boris and blasts him, stating that his plan is a crude ploy to buy votes. Now, I truly believe this. I think this guy has lost massive amounts of confidence over the last few years. He says one thing and he does something completely different over and over again. So can we trust the word that comes out his mouth? I certainly don't. Maybe you guys do. Maybe you guys have a little bit more optimism. But essentially what this article states, and I will touch on this very briefly in a few moments time, is that it replicates a scheme first implemented by Margaret Thatcher in 1980s. And one of the problems with that was that there just simply weren't enough houses then being built for each one that was being sold. So it just again created the whole supply and demand issue. And obviously you guys know now, house prices obviously gone through the roof, rents are going through the roof, and a lot of that is down to simple economics of supply and demand. If there's not enough supply to meet the demand, essentially the price goes up. So again, I kind of share his sentiments. Richard Cole's dropped a good tweet here that I think is interesting for you guys just to know. It costs us 70,000 to discount a house for the right to buy. 40% end up as buy to lets. Very interesting stat there, with a significant cost to us in housing benefit. Why not use the 70k to build new social housing for genuinely affordable rents, fairer and better value for money in the long run? I kind of share that sentiment. I think that if there was an incentive and some program pushing that forward, may actually do better in terms of bringing more supply, good stock, nice affordable homes onto the market. But that would just be too sensible, wouldn't it? Moving on, we have an article from Gavin Smart stating that is the right to buy for housing association residents the answer to affordable home ownership? And this is quite an interesting article, and guys, I will be linking all of these in the description below, so please do read them in your own leisure time, as I'm sure that's what you want to be doing on a Friday night as of recording this video. But essentially what he states is that we have 1.1 million households on the waiting list for social housing, and the number living in temporary accommodation has nearly doubled in the past decade. So yes, we need more, not fewer, affordable social housing homes. We know that. However, there was an analysis done by Professor Alan Murray for our 2022 UK Housing Review, which shows that the rent to buy has led to an erosion of stock on social rented homes, and around 40% of which were later sold into the private rented sector. And evidence now shows that the cost of this program, the cost to the Treasury of a new rent to buy, could be around 2 billion a year. Crazy. And there is some mention as well in terms of the impact that it will have on social landlords. I'm not sure many of you sympathize or have interest for social landlords, but you've got to think about the financial complications and the issues that it may be causing them as well. Would they be willing to absorb those costs? Are they happy to do that? Are they simply going to do that? I mean, the government can't necessarily control or tell a landlord when they can sell their property, or at least they can't now. So interesting times ahead. The next one is an interesting one. 96,000 reasons extending the right to buy is a bad policy. Now, there isn't actually 96,000 reasons, but what she means by this is there's more than 96,000 households currently living in temporary accommodation. And essentially what we're talking about here is, how fair is this scheme? Is this scheme inclusive to everyone, or will some people who are renting in the private sector essentially be hard done by, as they're not allowed to go and buy their home? Remember, if you're a landlord and you've got a property, you can't just simply create a scheme in the private rented sector where you're saying, okay, you can now go offer your landlord X amount and they have to accept it. Or at least we haven't gone down those measures just yet. So great article. Again, I'll link this down below as well. Daniel Hewitt then speaks with Michael Gove, and Michael Gove basically tells us what I think we're all thinking at this point. Extending the right to buy to housing association tenants can't lead to the depletion of social housing stock, insisting for every one sold, one must be built to replace it. But the government isn't directly in charge of selling or building, so it's going to be hard to guarantee that. And this is my problem. I don't think they're going to be able to guarantee that part of the pledge. So it's one thing making a pledge saying we're going to do this and we're going to allow people to buy their accommodation where they're currently renting, for example, but are you going to then be able to foresee the rest of that contract, which essentially says we will be building another one? I just don't see that happening personally. Moving on, and Greensmith states something we touched on earlier. Rory Stewart makes the completely valid point that Thatcher did not replace houses bought under the right to buy. Therein lies the basis of the housing crisis today. It's hard to disagree with that, and I think we're just repeating history, and we're repeating some of history's worst mistakes. Why? Ask yourselves that, why? Finally, guys, I think I've got two more to touch on, so I'm going to try and keep this short. Please, by the way, drop your comments down below. Let me know if there's anything I've missed or any other interesting articles or thoughts that you guys have, and I will try and respond to as many comments as possible. Ben Kentish states that at the heart of the right to buy announcement is a promise that every home sold will be replaced. Now, here's the stats that I think are important. This pledge has been made repeatedly for years, but never met. Very important to note. In the last 3 years, 39,300 homes have been sold under the right to buy, and only 16,100 built or bought to replace them. That's less than half of that pledge. So it's great saying something, but then what about the other side of the equation? If you're not hitting that side of the equation, we're just going to end up in more of a housing crisis where there's not enough supply, demand's going to be going again through the roof, rents are going to go high, and house prices are going to continue to increase. So scary times, my friends. And the final one I want to leave, and I'm actually just going to leave this in the description for you guys to obviously check out in your own time. I'm sure this is what you're going to be doing on the weekend, but it just explains what the right to buy is. It also explains the criteria, how you can apply. It explains the maximum discounts, and essentially what Boris Johnson has announced. Rather than me narrating it now, I have a bit of a cold, guys. I'm going to leave the video there. If you managed to stick around with me until now, thank you so much for sticking around. It truly means the world to me. Let me know your comments down below. I'll try and respond. And as always, guys, when you guys could have been doing anything, you chose to spend a few moments with me, and that makes you pretty awesome. So until next time, my friends, thanks for watching.